cannot deny is the amount of little girls that were showing up to follow her.
Why her?
Well, but she was a white girl from the middle of America.
There's a method to this madness. When given a chance to talk about Caitlin Clark, they're always going to racialize it and try to demonize Caitlin Clark's fan base.
I think what she's saying is ridiculous, and to tie it to little girls, you're going as low as humanly possible at this point.
Players have decided, hey, we're going to hate on Caitlin Clark constantly to elevate ourselves, but also trigger her fans so that they'll keep coming to games and rooting for her, and it's going to elevate the entire league.
They say it takes a legend to recognize another legend. Imagine witnessing someone who once shared the court with Magic Johnson and faced off against Larry Bird turned completely silent in the presence of a young basketball phenom. That's exactly what happened when Mychal Thompson, an NBA champion and father to four-time NBA winner Klay Thompson, crossed paths with Caitlin Clark. He literally froze, starstruck, unable to utter so much as a hello. In a world where veteran players usually command the biggest spotlight, this was a stunning role reversal. And it tells us something crucial. Whether you love or hate Caitlin Clark, her talent is forcing even the most seasoned basketball minds to take notice. McNutt claimed that much of Caitlin Clark's allure comes down to being a white girl from the middle of America, rather than an explosive athlete who drains logo threes with the confidence of Steph Curry. As you might guess, that did not sit well with fans who have watched Clark light up scoreboards from college to the WNBA. Monica McNutt is no stranger to basketball coverage. She's an analyst at ESPN, a place known for lively debates and strong opinions. But when she suggested that a key reason for Caitlin Clark's popularity is she was a white girl from the middle of America, lines were crossed. Instantly, social media lit up with fans accusing McNutt of undermining Clark's actual skill. People shared highlights of Clark bombing shots from near half-court, dishing out behind-the-back assists, and single-handedly carrying her team through high-stakes moments. They asked, so all of that is overshadowed by her being white and Midwestern? Sure, the WNBA is no stranger to controversy. But McNutt's remarks turned an already heated conversation into a full-blown inferno. She didn't emphasize Clark's record-setting college career or her near-unanimous selection as one of the top prospects in the WNBA. Instead, McNutt pinned the phenomenon on Clark's demographics. For many, it sounded like a slap in the face to every young athlete, regardless of background, who dreams of reaching that level through hard work and skill. Critics hammer McNutt for framing it as though there's nothing particularly special about Clark's game, overshadowing her uncanny shooting range and dynamic style. But the real tipping point came when fans and fellow analysts started connecting the dots. This wasn't the first time McNutt had subtly downplayed Clark. They pointed out earlier segments where McNutt shifted narratives, changed criteria, and rarely gave Clark the straightforward credit she seemed to deserve. It felt like a pattern. And it was precisely in the midst of this uproar that Mychal Thompson made his feelings on Clark and her detractors crystal clear. Mychal Thompson is a man with a lifetime of experience at basketball's highest levels. He's faced Larry Bird, played alongside Magic Johnson, battled against unstoppable forces like Michael Jordan, and watched his own son become one of the greatest shooters the NBA has ever seen. But according to Thompson's own words, none of that prepared him for the moment he found himself feet away from Caitlin Clark in a stadium tunnel. He froze. He couldn't bring himself to say hello, not because he didn't want to, but because he was stunned. A two-time NBA champion at a loss for words. Think about how significant that is. Usually rookies or younger players are the ones asking veterans for advice, not the other way around. Yet here was Thompson in awe of a WNBA newcomer who'd only just begun her professional journey. What does that say about Caitlin Clark? Thompson spelled it out. She plays the game like Steph Curry. He'd seen many great women players come and go. Talents like Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, Maya Moore, but insisted that Clark brings something different, something that resonates beyond typical skill comparisons. Her seemingly endless shooting range, her fearless drives, that swagger on the court. Fans call her the female Steph, but Thompson sees it as more than just a catchy label. He sees a generational player who's evolving how the women's game is perceived, admired, and eventually played. What made his confession so compelling was how genuine it felt. He wasn't chasing a headline. He was humbly admitting to being starstruck by a newcomer. And if someone of Thompson's pedigree believes Clark is rewriting the script for women's basketball, that begs the question, why are certain analysts not just dismissing her, but downright resentful? It's easy to accuse a commentator of bias, but the evidence against McNutt seems to mount by the day. Consider the instance when Clark was smashing rookie records, leading the WNBA in assists, logging big-time scoring nights, and people naturally started whispering she might win Rookie of the Year over Angel Reese or other standouts. Suddenly, McNutt moved the goalposts, arguing that the best rookie is the one who pushes her team to the playoffs, conveniently highlighting players on postseason-bound squads. In other words, team success became the yardstick the moment Clark excelled individually. On another occasion, McNutt liked or retweeted posts that downplayed Clark's abilities, positioning her success as overhyped. Observers noted how her body language shifted when Clark highlights appeared on ESPN segments. Eye rolls, dismissive shrugs, or a lackluster tone that contrasted sharply with her typically animated self. It's one thing to disagree with an athlete's hype. It's another to systematically poke holes in their achievements at every opportunity, especially when those achievements are historically unprecedented. This recurring pattern led fans to suspect that McNutt's agenda was personal, not professional. When you continuously find new ways to devalue a player's success, first it's about insufficient team wins, then it's about her background, then it's something else entirely. It starts looking less like critique and more like a vendetta. Many have asked if it's pure jealousy or perhaps an unwillingness to acknowledge a new face reshaping the WNBA's landscape. Enter Mychal Thompson's Jeep theory, a neat acronym that attempts to explain why certain corners of the sports world can't handle Caitlin Clark's breakout success. Mychal Thompson, with years of locker room insight, coined the acronym Jeep to describe what's driving the anti-Clark sentiment: jealousy, envy, egos, and pettiness. In his view, the relentless negativity aimed at Caitlin Clark doesn't come from a balanced, fact-based perspective. It's fueled by deep-seated emotional reactions. Jealousy, because she's become the face of women's basketball, seemingly overnight. Envy of her shooting skills, magnetic personality, and media attention. Egos that refuse to accept someone younger and newer overshadowing established veterans. Pettiness manifested in subtle jabs and minimized achievements. Normally, we dismiss an acronym as just another soundbite, but Thompson has the credibility to make it stick. He earned 2 NBA titles during the Lakers' Showtime era, spent years as a broadcaster studying the game, and watched his own son achieve 4 championships. He knows what it's like to be at the epicenter of hoop greatness. When he says Jeep is behind the constant barrage of critiques, it resonates. The beauty of the Jeep theory is that it puts the spotlight back on the real culprit: emotion, not analytics. Analysts like Monica McNutt aren't basing their criticisms on Clark's cold, hard stats. They're zeroing in on intangible qualities: her background, her hype, her race, or the marketing machine around her, to overshadow what fans see with their own eyes. Yet Clark's defenders argue that none of those external factors can fully explain her immense draw. You simply have to watch her in action to get why she's become such a phenomenon. If you're still skeptical, let's revisit what sets Clark apart. She doesn't just hit three-pointers. She nails them from the logos, sometimes even a step behind the line. There's an audacious confidence in each shot, reminiscent of Steph Curry's style. Fans don't just watch for the points, they watch for her epic range. Then there's her court vision. Clark passes like a seasoned floor general, anticipating plays 2 steps ahead of defenders. Even her critics admit she racks up assists at an eye-popping rate. But more than the stats, it's the way she plays. She's fiery, competitive, and unafraid to show emotion. She doesn't shrink from big moments. She thrives under pressure, pulling off highlight-worthy shots when the game's on the line. That swagger has endeared her to a generation of fans who believe women's basketball could use more raw excitement. And guess what? It's not just a certain demographic tuning in. You see kids of all ethnicities wearing her jersey, families packing arenas to see her play, and new fans stumbling onto a WNBA game for the first time just because they heard about that guard who shoots from half court. So when Monica McNutt frames Clark's fame around her being a white girl from the middle of America, it feels like a slap in the face to all the nights Clark spent perfecting that deep three. It belittles the thousands of hours she invested into her craft, and ignores the powerful energy she injects into a sport that desperately needs its stars to shine. The color of Clark's skin doesn't sink half-court jumpers on a regular basis. Her insane skill does. Here's the twist. The WNBA and media giants like ESPN stand to benefit enormously from Caitlin Clark's magnetism. Every time she takes the court, viewership spikes, discussions trend on social media, and fresh faces tune in who might otherwise overlook women's basketball. Networks have noticed. The Indiana Fever, where Clark landed, were slated for over 40 nationally televised games for the 2025 season, an unprecedented number for a previously struggling franchise. That's direct evidence that people can't get enough of her, and big businesses see the profit potential. Yet ironically, ESPN pays the checks of analysts like McNutt, who, by continuously discrediting Clark, arguably undercut the very ratings their employer is banking on. In short, they benefit from the hype while chipping away at it from the inside. It's like biting the hand that feeds you while also expecting that hand to deliver record-setting sponsorships and audience growth. Fans aren't blind to the hypocrisy. After McNutt's remarks, social media blew up with calls for ESPN to address the situation more directly. Some asked if the network supports an analyst who trivializes the skill of one of basketball's hottest prospects. Others demanded apologies, even job terminations. While firing an analyst may be extreme, the debate underscores how fiercely fans have rallied around Clark. They see her as a game changer, not just for the WNBA, but for how women's basketball is viewed worldwide. And they won't stand by quietly while commentators reduce her to a racial demographic or location-based stereotype. Lost in all the drama is a lesser-known but vital angle. The Indiana Fever might be one of the most intriguing young teams in the league. Pairing Caitlin Clark with frontcourt stalwart Aaliyah Boston, another college legend turned WNBA difference-maker, creates a lethal inside-out combination. Boston's an imposing post presence who can anchor the defense and dominate the boards. Clark's infinite shooting range stretches defenses so thin that Boston often finds open lanes and second-chance scoring opportunities. Then there are the complementary pieces, Lexi Hull, a scrappy wing defender who never takes a play off, and Kelsey Mitchell, who can easily chip in 15 to 20 points on any given night. The Fever also added veterans like Dana Bonner, Natasha Howard, or Sophie Cunningham, players with championship experience who understand what it takes to elevate a team. While the Fever's record might not yet reflect a championship level, the framework is in place for a bright future. What does this mean for Clark specifically? It means she won't be carrying an entire franchise alone. She has legitimate talent around her, creating more open looks and better scoring chances. And in a way, it further dispels the narrative that her hype is purely demographic. If she thrives in Indiana, it'll be because she can pick apart defenses, orchestrate the offense, and hit big shots when her team needs them most, just like she did in college. It might seem trivial, one commentator praising a player, another doubting her, but it actually reveals the deeper dynamics of sports media. Michael Thompson has lived through multiple eras of basketball greatness. He's seen firsthand how a transcendent player can reshape not only the game but the culture around it. In praising Caitlin Clark so openly, especially by comparing her to Steph Curry, Thompson underscores her potential to be that kind of revolutionary figure in the women's league. Meanwhile, Monica McNutt represents the segment of pundits who resist that narrative. Some might do so because they genuinely believe the hype is too inflated, but others might be influenced by personal feelings, resentments, or simply the need to stand out in a crowded field of hot takes. Thompson's Jeep theory calls out these emotional motives, jealousy, envy, egos, pettiness, and reminds us that commentary can often be shaped by underlying biases instead of objective analysis. That's why Thompson's stance is so impactful. It's not just a random compliment. It's a credible voice challenging a narrative that tries to minimize one of the most exciting talents the sport has seen in years. Ultimately, the clash between Thompson's enthusiastic praise and McNutt's dismissive stance highlights the broader question. Are we witnessing the rise of a generational talent, or are we seeing an overblown media creation? With each electrifying performance, Clark seems determined to answer that question herself. So the next time someone tries to dismiss Clark's success as superficial hype, remember the man who shared locker rooms with Magic and battled Bird. He couldn't even get a hello out when he met her. That kind of astonishment can't be faked, and it certainly can't be explained away by demographics. It's the mark of a special player, one who might just change the game far more than her critics ever care to admit. Do you see it happening? Let us know how you feel about the future of Caitlin Clark, the Jeep theory, and the potential for a new women's basketball dynasty on the horizon. The conversation doesn't end here. This is just the beginning of a story we'll be talking about for years to come.